Hello, I'm Earl Gibbs, and welcome to Earl Gibbs Live. I have a guest with me, definitely not a stranger, man. This man is well known in the insurance finance business. How are you doing, Mr. Neil Henderson?
Well, I am doing good, Oral. It's always a pleasure being here with you. So I look forward to bringing some information to the public that would benefit them.
And so you're back as president of the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association, right?
Yes, that is correct. We had an election late last year or early January, I believe.
Yeah.
And the members decided that my work was not done as yet. So here I am again as the president of the St. Martin Insurance Brokers
Well,
Association.
it's good to have you back. And so how are things going otherwise?
Otherwise, well, you're just trying to understand the world better every day. You know, there's so much that fellas like you and I have to learn because the world as we know it has disappeared. Everything is new. The way you deal with children nowadays, you have to be very informed to teach them anything because they already know it from Google or YouTube or something.
There's a danger in that too, huh?
So our role is dynamic as parents. Business is also very dynamic because those game rules are changing a lot. In my business, you have a lot of compliance that changes every day. And the public that you normally deal with as your client base, they are struggling to also understand what is going on. And they have to catch up. And that is causing a level of unproductivity in most people's life and their businesses as well. So everybody looks towards politicians to, you know, shape things up, make things understandable,
Yeah.
and help people to progress.
Boy, that's a tough one though. When you look at politicians these days, they're more interested in surviving and taking care of themselves, you know.
Yeah, well, they don't have it easy either, Oral. I really feel for politicians nowadays because
You're alone in that one.
because I think most of what is happening now is outside of their sphere of influence. But it's up to them to tell the people that that is the case and see how they can get the involvement of everybody, or at least more people, to solve some of the issues that we are facing.
I think I remember you talking about politicians locally, regionally,
No, worldwide.
Well, okay.
Worldwide.
Yeah.
Even Joe Biden, I think,
Oh, Lord,
struggles
please.
with.
That's not even. It's embarrassing when you see what's going on there. But anyway, I think what's happening in your business in terms of insurance is quite interesting. The reason I say it because I always tell you this, you know, insurance man, you hate them, but you need them at the same time, you know. And we haven't had any big storms on St. Martin since Irma. But I think I gotta ask you the question because everybody wants to know. I know the answer, but everybody wants to know why is it that we haven't had any huge storms since 2017, but still we are seeing prices go up all the time.
Yeah, because again, insurance is about spreading risk. And if you don't spread risk, you will take such a big hit as an insurance entity that you would be bankrupt in no time. So because insurance companies have to spread risk, they take what you call reinsurance. And reinsurance companies, they accept risk all over the world. And because they take risk from all over the world, when something happens anywhere in the world, it affects their bottom line. It affects their investors. So every time there is a new treaty, a reinsurance treaty to be negotiated, they would then pass on the losses. They would try to recoup those losses. And the way they do that is they would raise their reinsurance prices. And then insurance companies, on the other hand, who have to buy reinsurance, would then pass that on to the customers. So whether St. Martin have a major loss or not, if you look at what happened in Turkey recently, that is going to be a significant loss. They're still counting the deaths, so you have to think about the life policies that have to be paid out. People who would be injured, those policies have to pay out to. You would have people who would be disabled as a result of those injuries. So there's a disability policy that would be triggered there. And then we're not talking about the physical damage and destruction of the buildings, the cars in the surrounding, the hospitalization, which also is paid by insurance companies. And then you also have the loss of business. So when you look at one incident like that, it triggers multiple policies that have to start paying out. So depending on how many insurance companies took risk there and having to pay those losses, then it would explain you why the cost of reinsurance would go up. And then we're not even talking about all the other incidents that happened throughout the world.
All right, in case you've just joined us, I'm Oral Gibbs, and you are following us on Hot 99.9 FM radio station here in Simpson Bay, St. Martin, or on YouTube, Facebook, or TV Carib. My guest is Mr. Neil Henderson. He's the now president of Siba, that's the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association. Mr. Henderson is also CEO of Henderson Insurance. Right?
Yes, Henderson International.
And it's good to have him here again on the program. Mr. Henderson, when you look at insurance, let's take a look at St. Martin locally. I want to come back later on to you about what Siba does, but I think the problem in automobile insurance in St. Martin, we see a lot of car accidents. The other day I was driving up the hill, Mount William Hill, and in the space, a distance of just 100 meters, there were two different accidents. And it's happening more and more all over the other. Does that affect a guy like me who drives a car but don't have any accidents? In terms of insurance, reinsuring my car every year?
Well, insurance, the prices are based on the loss experience in a particular segment of coverage. So the car insurance is one segment, for simplicity's sake, and then you have the home insurance, that's another segment, medical insurance, life insurance. So if in one particular segment, insurance companies are collecting, let's say, $1 million in premium, right? But they have to pay employees, they have a number of overhead costs. So their worst case scenario would be, let's say, that they have to pay out 60%, right? So then 40% would give them a profit margin and paying overhead expense. But if the accidents are increasing and that worst case scenario becomes 80%, it means that they would have to look at their cost setting for that particular segment. And I believe a number of contributing factors are people are using their telephones more in traffic now.
Yeah, but that's against the law.
It is, of course, but yes, you still have to look at the enforcing of those laws that would have a negative effect on the costing of the policies. We have much more vehicles on the road right now, but you also have kind of strange weather these days where basically every day it is raining around.
Yeah, I noticed.
So when you look at all of those contributing factors that would raise the loss ratio, then yes, the insurance company would come with an increase. And an insurance company cannot increase your policy just because you had a loss. That would be against the rules. That would be unethical because you're paying premium. So if you, Oral Gibbs, have a loss, the insurance company cannot say, oh, because you had a loss, we'll raise your premium.
So a loss is when you have a car accident, right?
Yes. So when they're going to impose an increase, they have to do it for that whole segment of coverage for all the car insurance.
But then why is it that they look at your driving record in terms of how many accidents you had and you pay a higher premium than another guy? I know that's the way it is in the U.S., not about St. Martin.
Yes, it is called a no-claim discount, and the word literally means what it says. You file no claim, you get a discount. And because insurance companies have a vested interest in people taking their own precautionary measures to avoid accidents, they give you a reward. Every year you drive without filing a claim, you will get a 10% no-claim discount.
So,
with some companies, that discount can go up to 50%, 60%. It depends on the company.
It's quite interesting. It's smart when you said that, because then if I don't have accident for 10 years, then it's down to zero.
No, it goes to... But it's an incentive to make sure that people take a little more precautionary measures on their part. But also the insurance company, they can then make calculations based on, well, it is all calculations. They can calculate their risk exposure once you have people also having a vested interest.
So then it doesn't matter with all those accidents we've seen on the road here in St. Martin. It depends on the whole region in a way.
It depends on that particular coverage for the particular territory where that insurance company is taking risk.
Oh. So then insurance companies will have like a territory, say the Eastern Caribbean or Northeastern Caribbean. That would be like a territory that, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What about Siba now? What's the whole purpose of the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association?
Well, the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association is basically to make sure that customers have a good experience in the insurance sector. The Siba came out of the negative experiences that people had with Hurricane Lewis.
Yeah.
When you had the blue roofs and companies disappeared, others went bankrupt and so on.
Including insurance companies.
Yes. So from that experience, the members in the sector felt it was very important to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And the only way to make sure that that is managed is for you to organize. So we organized and became a body, which is the Siba, and then we had to go and lobby for legislation. So with that legislation now, we fall under the supervision of the central bank, and we will have to comply with a number of things to make sure that the central bank can supervise in a way that customers don't wake up one day realizing that, oh my goodness, this whole industry was a big sham.
Like Castaway, which was the name of the insurance company, Castaway, which was really telling you what they were doing already. That was in 95 with Lewis,
Yes.
and they were talking a lot of people.
Yeah, some names is a giveaway actually. You look at it.
You've been in the business for how long now?
It's more than 20 years.
More than 20? I thought like maybe 25 or so, man.
Yes. I don't want to give so much information about my age, but okay.
Yeah, I've been around here like about 42 years now, man. So, hey, we get it up there, you can't hide it sooner or later.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
We have seen a company like, say, Nagico.
Mm-hmm.
Nagico was a small little company owned by our people here in St. Martin. A number of different families got together and started an insurance company. Then Maxwood came in very early because I know him from 1985, somewhere 86.
Okay.
And gradually, he bought out everyone. I don't know if this is correct, and pardon me, please, on this one, but Chinese came in now, understand, and bought over the entire company. Is that what you're hearing? Or because you're in the business, you got to deal with them as an insurance broker. Is it true now that Nagico is now Chinese owned?
Okay. Well, first of all, in my role as a broker, it is important for me to know the solvability of an insurance company. So when clients come to me, I have to make a recommendation based on their risk profile, which coverage I'm going to place with which insurance company, or which one I will make a recommendation on. So for me, it is important that the insurance company is in a position that it can make good on the promises, because that's what a policy is. So that being said, which entity is responsible for supervising and making sure that an insurance company is solvable? That is the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin. And all the insurance companies have to submit their figures, they have to submit their policies so that it can be tested, so that it can be supervised in terms of, are you living up to what is promised in these policies? Nagico, like no other company, has met the expectation and approval of the central bank. Otherwise, you would hear that from the central bank.
Well, that's not necessarily true, Mr. Henderson. Let me tell you why. We saw what happened with India. So, and the central bank was sleeping when that happened. And really, we don't know now if they're really sleeping or they're only targeting companies where they have friends or enemies. Because unfortunately, and this is me saying this now, we realize when there are regulations and laws, they only apply to the enemies and their friends who walk the other way. We saw that with India. So a lot of people don't have the kind of confidence right now, but it appears that the central bank is trying to wake up from the sleep, and I hope they're doing that. But the question to you was...
But I
know, but the question to you was, and I think you went off on a tangent here, is that you are president of the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association. You have to know who you're doing business with as a broker. So I asked the question now, does Nagico no longer belong to the individual owner that went from many individuals to now a Chinese group of people? That's all. And you could say, I don't know, or I know, or I want to discuss that. And then we move on, you know?
Well, look, I appreciate the question, Oral, but just for context, I cannot speak to how the central bank is doing their work. I can tell you what they are supposed to do. So just to clarify, they are supposed to do their work a certain way.
But you know they were sleeping on Enya's situation.
So if they slept on the Enya story, that would come out in the court.
No, it was out. I mean, you saw what happened there with Mullah Bay and everything else, and how. So it was out.
Yeah, I saw the verdict, Oral, and trust me, the amount of pages, if I have to read everything.
Well, none of us read everything, but the fact of the matter remains that there was a perception that the central bank was doing its job, and then we had Hurricane Irma, and we know what happened from there. So, hey, they screwed up. And let's hope now that they're no longer doing that. It appears now they're trying to correct all the problems they had. And so you have to protect yourself and your association. I say what I say, and if they don't like it, then all they have to do now is then challenge me in a court of law. But that's not the matter right now. The matter is the central bank is responsible for us. There are other things I could tell you about the central bank. that will probably shock you and a lot of people. And this comes from even former ministers that sat in the Ministry of Finance for St. Martin. So it's a very tricky thing, you know. But I don't want to go there, and I hope someday I can get a central bank here to speak and explain everything.
Okay.
So if you don't want to touch the part,
But I don't have a problem
yeah,
touching.
okay, but we want to cover. I don't want to.
Yeah, but
because we have so much time and so little.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
okay. Look, what I know is that Nagico, like you said, had a number of local shareholders, and this is public information. And then the number of shareholders were reduced to less. And then at a given moment, there was a sale. I think there were specific conditions as to how the sale would take place.
Who issued those conditions?
Well, that is a company thing. I don't
Okay.
think I'm at liberty as
No, because
Siba
the reason I
president.
asked that question is because in other countries, that's a condition issued by the regulator.
I was going to
asked
get
that
yes, I
question.
was going to
Yeah.
get to that. So now that you have less shareholders, part of the company was sold, and then the other part was going to be sold at a later date. I believe that entire process took place,
Right.
and now the regulator have to give the final say in terms of it has their blessing to be transferred fully, because there too.
So did that happen already, to your knowledge?
I am not aware
okay.
of that. But there too, the central bank have a responsibility to make sure that if I'm buying Oral Gibbs insurance company, that I can prove that I am going to run the company responsible, and that your policies that you had in the past and your culture and everything, that it does not create too much of a big mismatch
Yeah.
with the community.
The reason why, Mr. Henderson, why I'm bringing this up here is that we have to be very, very careful. We have to be careful because I don't know how many insurance companies we have right now on the island.
It's
We have
about 5 property
Five
companies and about 3 life companies.
So 5 handle properties
Yes.
and 3 life. All right. And there's a number of brokers on the island. But how many?
More than 40.
More than 40, yeah?
I
That,
think
that
so.
are member with, all of them
No,
are
they
member?
that are registered with the central bank.
Oh, okay.
They're not compelled to be a Siba member.
All right.
But the legislation is of such that once the Siba is consulted on any new legislation or an amendment, it is deemed having been consulted with the entire body of brokers and agents.
So tomorrow if I wake up and I say, well, you know what, I'm going to open up Oral Gibbs insurance brokers. I can do it?
No, you would have to apply for a license with the central bank. And then
All the brokers have a license from
Correct.
the central bank. All right.
they have to. If an insurance company is caught giving you agency without a license, they have a 400,000 guilders fine, or the leader of the company, the factual leader, can have a 6 months jail term.
All right. So what is it you think, Mr. Henderson, that people don't understand about brokers, insurance brokers?
Well, I must say, on St. Martin, people are understanding more and more about brokers. St. Martin is a broker's market. I believe what is happening now in St. Martin is that you have more brokers than you had in 1995 when Lewis came. You have a lot of new brokers, because not that you have more than in 1995, but you have more new brokers compared to 1995. So the number of brokers that really understand the market, understand what it means to wake up to a disaster, understand what it means to deal with people, not just for the physical losses that they have suffered, but also the emotional distress that they're going through.
Do they consider that? Do they really consider emotional distress? I don't think so.
A broker, if you are really worth your salt, somebody comes in by you and their property is destroyed, you have to not just deal with the claims process, But you also have to hear them out. They have a lot of things that they want to say. Sometimes it's about their personal life. Sometimes it's about job-related things. So you can't really rush them.
I know you're a guy. I know you do that, but I know many brokers, they just want to get rid of you. That's it.
And that's my point exactly, because a lot of people know they are looking at promises that some new brokers are making. You know, when you are, it's like when you're a brand new politician, you can promise anything because you don't really have a track record. And that's the only thing that Siba really would like to ask the public to look at that very good, not because someone is new and they promise a lot of things or they criticize a lot of things means that they will perform when you have a loss.
Because when there's a loss, the broker is supposed to represent you, right?
Correct.
But then the broker at the same time gets a commission from the insurance agent.
Well, for the policies that they sell or the policies that renew. But when there's a loss, you have to work like 1,000 times harder, and you're not necessarily making money at that time. Unless you have clients that give you a special mandate that, look, I just want to focus on my family. I want to focus on my core business. I will mandate you to deal with the claims handling process.
And then there's a payment.
Then you can, yes.
I know, because I've done that before. You know, when you look at insurance, man, after a hurricane, especially I went through Lois and Irma, you seem to learn a lot, because you think that, okay, with Lois, everything was done, and then Irma comes along, and then the insurance is saying, well, this is not part of it. This is not a. You got a house, but if you got a pool, you got this and that. It's confusing, man.
Yeah, because every policy have a list of things that can trigger.
But it's a comprehensive. Is that a misuse of the word comprehensive or all risk?
Comprehensive doesn't necessarily mean everything.
Okay.
Comprehensive means it is very broad and it meets most of your expectations.
But not every.
But because it's a contract, because it's a risk exposure, the insurance company also have to, on their side, limit certain things. They would either put a cap on things, like you will only get 5,000 for paintings. They would exclude maybe a dog house. They would exclude a number of things. So usually when you want to know what your policy covers, you can just go and look at the things that are excluded. And if it's not clear, black and white, then you always stand a better chance as a customer to get what you want.
You still got to ask a question sometimes. I realize now, even if it's not listed as excluded.
Well, jurisprudence would show that once the insurance company does not list it as an exclusion, if you claim for your tie, your shirt, and your glasses, the insurance company have to pay because they did not specifically exclude it. And then the question a judge would ask would be, how is Mr. Gibbs supposed to know that those things are not covered under his content?
You know, most of us, we don't really understand the insurance business. We are at the mercy of the insurance, and we expect brokers to be there to guide us through all of this, right?
Correct. That's how we earn a living, and that's how lawmakers saw it as well, because the insurance contract is complicated, and most people will not read it. Not that they cannot read or they cannot comprehend, but it's very dry material. It's so.
I know people with PhD that don't understand the policy. It's written for lawyers.
It's very a legal based contract.
Yeah. So brokers have to have some little bit of legal background to understand, because a broker is selling me something that he don't even understand sometimes.
Well, because of the nature of the insurance policies, most of the trainings in insurance has a very strong legal base.
All brokers have to go through a special training?
You have to be qualified to be able to get your license from the central bank.
Oh, okay. So you go through a test then?
Absolutely, you have to be certified. And
I didn't know, man. I was just going to open up and that's it.
In the past, it was like that, and that's why we had so many issues after Lewis in 1995. Because people just got into the insurance business because they knew a lot of people. They had a lot of friends. Their family was big. And insurance companies kind of use them as a distribution channel
That
for
don't
their
sound familiar
products.
to you? That sounds like Siba politics. Big family and everything. You go on. You come a minister. You come.
Everything
member
sounds
of
like
parliament.
semantic politics if you ask me, or because you see it all here.
No, but that's. I didn't expect you to say that about person coming as a broker because they had a big family, a lot of friends. So
Yeah.
quite interesting.
Yeah, they were in the church and they had
Bring
a
the whole
follow-
church
Yes.
congregation.
Any numbers that you could represent, an insurance company
Wow.
was willing to give you an agency for you to bring those people.
Well, I learned something new today.
But it's too late for you to make a living off of it,
Yeah.
unless you want to study insurance.
So people watch this show and they a lot of people tell me I'm tough on my guests. I ask questions no one asks, so I hope I didn't put you in any embarrassing situation, but this is my style. For young people
Yes.
watching this program, whether on YouTube, Facebook, or we also on social media, or on the radio, Hot 99.9 FM, what you need to do, what kind of background you need if you want to become an insurance broker, maybe 5-6 years from now?
Well, most of the degrees in insurance, you can achieve them if you have a Payout level of
That high?
education.
Very
Otherwise,
high.
it would be very, very hard to pass those exams.
Really?
It is not easy. You have like 8 qualifications that the central bank would accept, and that was done during the period of putting the law together. We sat with the University of Netherlands Antilles at the time, and we established that 8 were going to be sufficient
Yeah.
for you to represent customers' interest in such a complex contract. And you can do it, of course, with less. You can do it with a MAFO, with it. A FAWI, how you call it the other? Well, they have so much FASBOs and
all
so
those
on.
take care and all that kind of
Yes, but it's just going to be hard because sometimes you have professionals as well, people with master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, PhDs, as you said, and sometimes they come and try to make those exams to be able to understand insurance, or sometimes they have a CEO position at a company and they want to understand risk management, so they would come and they would try to make those exams, and they realize that it's not very easy.
But Mr. Henderson, when you said Vario, and I said, wow, that's high, it's because all of my children went to Vario, and my last daughter was in a Vario class with only five or six other students. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you set the bar that high, then in the next 5 years, we won't have any brokers when all the guys like you and so probably retire and move on. We won't have any St. Martin brokers.
Yeah, but you see, the lawmakers have decided that it is such a serious thing because you're dealing with the economic position of people, of their families. You're talking about business. And if that is not done in a proper manner, then you could have a situation where people regress in your community because something happens and they were ill-advised or not advised at all.
So that's why they're looking for the highest qualification there.
It was established, all things considered, that it have to be people that can really advise you. And that is why a lot of brokers that in the past would just get clients because they were buddies or they hang out at the same club and so on. Everyone that did not take the industry serious enough, these requirements from the regulator have given those people an opportunity to basically exit the industry.
Yeah, so now they blame Siba for all of that, right?
I haven't heard that.
Did they push? So you guys push for all those things?
Well, you know how it is in a democracy.
Hey, look,
whatever you do,
it makes the industry better, right? That's ultimately what
it's better for the customers, because you sit in front of a broker now, you can ask any question about any policy. And the broker must be able to highlight at least the 10 good things in a policy.
Really?
If you don't find that if you pick up the phone right now and call an insurance broker and you say, look, I want a life insurance. And that broker cannot tell you, well, look, we have the possibility for this, that. We have 3 different insurance companies that offer that. The key difference with those companies are bam, bam, bam. Key difference with the policies, then you shouldn't be talking to a broker like that.
All right. I'll tell you what, Mr. Henderson, we have to go to a break. All right. So when we come back, we're going to continue speaking with Mr. Neil Henderson. He is the president of Siba, and he's also CEO of Henderson Insurance.
Yes.
Right. And also a reminder that you can always follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or you are listening to us right now on Hot 99.9 FM radio station right here in St. Martin on the beautiful Simpson Bay Strip. When we come back, we'll continue to speak with Mr. Henderson right here on Oral Gibbs Live. Please stay with us.
Make use of Wib mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download Wib mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
If you'd like to advertise on Hot 99.9 FM radio station, well, give us a call at 520-6070. That's 520-6070. That's Hot 99.9 FM radio station. My guest on the program is Mr. Neil Henderson, and we're here to speak with him about insurance. He's the president of the St. Martin Insurance Brokers Association. So there's so many things happening in the insurance industry. And you at the beginning of the program, you mentioned about what happened in Turkey recently and how that's going to affect the policy in terms of increasing policy.
It could affect, yes.
But, I want to jump back to the Caribbean because we are a big area. We have all these storms every year and so forth. And do you think we'll ever see any decrease in policies in the near future here?
Definitely, because competition is very important. So if for an extended period of time, and I find since Irma, it's already an extended period of time, there was not much loss in this region. Depending on the reinsurance treaties that the insurance companies in this territory have, they can negotiate lower treaties, or they can change up the concept of their reinsurance treaty, or they can go to the public and say, well, look, knowing that we're living in a hurricane-prone territory, we have some earthquakes and so on, we will write them a different type of policy. See if you like this one. Maybe instead of comprehensive, we will just cover earthquake and fire, or we will just cover hurricane for a certain limit. Let's say the first $50,000. Maybe you have people that would be interested in just collecting $50,000 no matter what the hurricane losses are, especially if you know that your house is built very strong. So insurance companies that can be creative and market their products in a way that the public wants, you can see a cost reduction.
You know, for a lot of people, that I think this is very important for Sir Martin. And I thought about it the other day, where the average guy owns a home and does an appraisal, and it's appraised at, say, $800,000. Now, this is a person who worked most of their life. They had very little income, but they built a house. You know, this in Simran, you can bail, have friends come in, and you have a mansion for $800,000. But now you're a pensioner, you're retired. Even if you're not retired, the annual premium on that home insurance sometimes is more than your entire salary for the year.
Yes, it could be very high.
There's a lot of people facing that right now in St. Martin.
Yes.
I don't know if you ever thought about that.
Yes, actually, one of the things I thought of, Oral, is instead of us having to deal with calamities and go asking for money by the Dutch partner, the Dutch government, we can look at the social economic status of our people. And if we establish that there is a big group of people that cannot afford insurance at all, for whatever reason, then I think we should try to budget a premium, even if we have to borrow that or get it as a grant, that we insure everybody in that particular category for the first, let's say, $50,000 or the first $25,000. So once a hurricane comes, let's say we're going to do it, and to bring the premium even lower, you can say it will only be triggered if we get a category 3 or a category 4 hurricane. So the minute we have a cat 3 or 4 hurricane, all those policies will pay out the first $25,000 to those families. It means that government doesn't have to go and pay out social benefits or ask for money to help these people and so forth. So let us say you had to borrow $50 million after a hurricane to help with those type of social needs. The premium to insure those people and get the same $50 million might only cost you $3 million. So borrow the $3 million in advance, discuss it with the Netherlands in advance that, look, this thing happens every so often. I think it's every 20 years when you look at it, really, the big ones. You get them to give you $3 million in a grant or a soft loan, and you put it in the social budget, put all of those people in one pool, cover the first 25,000, and the minute a cat 3 or 4 hits, it triggers a settlement. All of those families just come and they get a 25,000, and then they can clean up around their house, they can put back on maybe a roof, and government doesn't have to deal with.
Well, I have a good idea, man. I think some political parties are going to be coming to you.
Why would they do that?
Well, that's a good idea. You can run for parliament, man.
Just with that?
The others are not offering anything. You're ahead already, man. Think about it. I'm just putting it there. I don't want to put you in the spot here because that could have serious consequences for you.
Well,
So let's not discuss that too much because politicians sitting watching the show say, hey, wait a minute there. You heard what Earl gives just to Henderson? We got to take care of him.
Meaning, what, take me out?
Stop him before you get there. No, but it's a very, very, very good idea.
Because I've seen how much things we had to do for this 550 million
Right.
euros oral. I mean, that alone would tell you that, look, instead of going looking for 550 million, ask for 5 million, ask for 3 million, insure everybody for the first X amount. And even if it means that we have to raise extra revenues through taxes to cover that 3 million, ask for it for 5 years, because we've had the war, we've had COVID, we've had the hurricane. So, our economy is struggling. We still have the airport unfinished. So within that, I think it's how you frame your request and how you validate it. But that would be something to do definitely for St. Martin, being that we're in a hurricane belt.
Like you mentioned the airport, that was quite a challenge because, even the insurance didn't want to pay out at the time.
Yeah, well, I think insurance companies paid a lot after the hurricane, because you're looking at about $800 million in total on St. Martin.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, the details about the claims handling process, that's a whole different thing. Sometimes you have to qualify, you have to quantify your claim. And so...
No, I just mentioned that because of what you mentioned, the airport, it's still there struggling. And, I know they had some issues and they went to court. I had the CEO of the airport here recently. He explained the whole thing. And I think what happens sometimes, people say, well, you know what? If that could have happened to the airport, what about me, little Johnny and Alfred? Man, the insurance company going to squash us. And I think what has happened, maybe you've heard this too. After Hurricane Irma, man, the insurance company wasn't that generous at all, like they were in '95. In fact, they were looking at ways to rip you off, man. And it's, pardon me the term there, but that's exactly what happened.
Well,
not you, huh? You're a broker, but I'm talking with the...
Yeah, the experience with insurance is never a pleasant one, because you're dealing with people at a very high emotional level, because they've lost their property, they're sick and they need medical attention. So, or someone dies and they have to get a settlement.
Yeah.
So they're very emotional moments for the consumer. And that is why the Siba believes that information beforehand is very important. Educated client, oral, you can move mountains with an educated client.
So Henderson, I am not too knowledgeable about insurance, I'll tell you right now, but I've gone through Lois. With Lois, I think Nagico was understanding, and the agreement we had, the claim was settled. I think everyone was happy. Let's move on to Irma. Irma came, man, and Nagico was nitpicking, man. Nitpicking just a few $1,000s. I wasn't happy.
Oh.
Because I didn't expect that from Nagico. Hey, it's an insurance company I insured all my life with. And now, on a claim of just less than $11,000, you're literally nitpicking away. While at the same time, Caribbean Alliance, that had another property of mine, they were more understanding. We could get to a settlement that everyone was happy. But I left Nagico not happy. Okay. And it was a much smaller claim. What I'm saying, look, I know a lot of people don't like it, but the average person in St. Martin, A lot of people said the same thing I just told you when it came to Nagico. I don't know if they realized that they were too generous in 95, so we're going to screw them now in 2017 and make sure we got back all what we didn't get back in 1995. But I tell you, that's what happened to me and to a lot of people. And I feel sorry for a lot of people because they really lost a lot. They had to come up with the money to finish what they had to do.
Yeah. Well, or look, as a broker, I have to represent the interests of clients first. In the process, I have to be very careful that I don't misrepresent an insurance company that we do business with.
All of them, right?
We do business with all of them, right? And then in my capacity as Siba president, I think this is my 4th term already, I might get fired from my membership if I go on specific insurance companies.
I understand. I don't want you to go there at all.
But what is a fact? What is a fact, though, is that in '95, Nagico had less clients. So you heard less negative about Nagico. But in 2017, Nagico was the biggest insurance underwriter for property.
Why do you think that happened?
I think because after 95, you had
people saw what Nagico did. It was good experience.
Yeah, because
and the word got around.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you also had other players in the market that fell out. They were like, okay, we don't want to be in this next time. So they stopped doing property insurance on St. Martin. Afterwards, they came back, and people penalized them for leaving in the first place. So people felt that Nagico was loyal and Nagico was creative and they brought products and so on. Yeah. So for Nagico's bad luck, for lack of a better word, when Hurricane Irma struck, I believe most of the clients on St. Martin were standing in the line to collect from Nagico. So that in and of itself would give you a much more broader information about the experience with Nagico.
But you remember what we said about risk?
What about risk?
What the insurance company should be always doing, making sure they spread their risk and have their risk well controlled.
Yes, but a claims process is a very personal thing. It's because your risk and my risk are probably the same, but your loss is different to my loss. And your adjuster might give you a report saying you've lost 11,000, and my adjuster would give me a report saying I've lost 200,000.
Adjuster.
Yes.
They flew in adjusters from all over the Caribbean. They came from countries where a bunch of shacks, and the cost for rebuilding was like 60% lower than St. Martin. I exaggerate that point there. The adjusters did a very bad job.
And yes, and that is what people need to understand. The public needs to understand.
But did you hear that from a lot of people about the adjusters?
Yeah, because all the adjusters were saying, the first thing they were saying is you're underinsured. And if they render you underinsured, it means that they're going to pay you a portion of your claim. But then you have to know exactly what you're talking about there, where the cost of reconstruction in one country is not the same cost of reconstruction in another country. And you also have to have representation during that process from your broker or agent. Because it's about interpreting the policy wording, finding the gray areas, and making it work in the interest of your client.
I think what I found strange is that small amounts on the $15,000 insurance, but just struggling with you and really want to beat you up on it. That surprised me, and that happened to me, and that happened to a lot of people. And I think that's where people really got really pissed off with insurance on St. Martin. And now a lot of people can't afford it anymore.
Okay, because the small amounts, remember you have a deductible as well, which is 2% of the sum insured.
So then you're left over just about $6,000-$7,000, and you still can't get that from them. They're still struggling, fighting you over that. I just hope, Mr. Henderson, that, and as president of Siba, and I hope they're watching all of the insurance companies, look, the experience in Irma was really bad. I think Caribbean Alliance did a marvelous job compared to my friends at Natrico. I hope they realize the new ownership and what have you. Natrico was an insurance company founded and built by St. Martiners. It was a part of we were proud of it. It's no longer a national pride of St. Martin because it's not ours anymore. Let's be real about it. But the fact of the matter remains, we're going to always need insurance. So we have to make sure that the companies that are here understand us as a culture. They come here to make money. We know that. But at the same time, treat us with a little more respect.
Yeah. Well, customers have to demand that. And the way for you to demand that is by taking good advice at the pre-contractual stage, which is the minute you start to select a broker, make sure that you select a broker with for the right reasons, not because it's your uncle or a friend or so. Look at track records. Look at brokers that have been around with Lewis and have a lot of experience. Look for brokers that have also been there with Irma. Look at brokers that have been on St. Martin with you through thick and thin, whether it was just an accident with your car or a fire or sickness that you had to be flown out and they went the extra mile to make sure that you were airlifted on time and so forth. And stay away from promises from newcomers because it only matters when they have to represent you in a claim.
Well, Mr. Henderson, we're out of time. I want to thank you for coming. Always a pleasure having the program, all right?
Thanks for having me, Earl.
Again, thanks and much success.
Thank you.
And that's it for now. I'll see you next time right here on Earl Gibbs Live and Hot 99.9 FM radio station right here on the Strip in Simpson Bay, St. Martin. See you then. Take care. Bye.